back on a path less trodden. Stuff falling on my head. Welcome back to the channel of soul rebirth. Me expressing my soul rebirth. I would say that's the most accurate way to describe it at this moment. Super grateful for you guys for traveling on this journey of digging into the subconscious. I feel like we're like grave diggers. We look for things, we look for jewels in places where there's plenty of death, and death is only rebirth when you look at it from the other perspective. I heard the story of two babies in a mother's womb, talking about whether there's life after birth, and one was saying, do you believe in the great mother? He was saying, what do you mean great mother? There's nothing but what we have here, there's no life after birth. And he was saying, well, maybe the great mother is all around us, we are in it, so it's like a great metaphor. The story was longer than that, but I can't remember the whole thing. Basically, one baby is trying to prove to the other that there's life after birth, and I think that there's life after death for us too. I don't believe it, but how Jung says it, I know it. I had this one dream once, and I had a dream that was similar to the dream I had last night. It was about walking through walls. So if I believe enough, I can walk through walls. That was the message that I got from the dream. Because in a dream, things were solid, but if I believed enough, I could put my hand through the wall. I could merge with another person. I could merge with anything, basically. And it was an interesting dream that I had last night. I saw these two figures, and I think looking from a perspective, it was a view of me and another person just merging together, and it was like this one big mass, like kind of a rectangle, and there was like a lot of movement happening between what you could see as two shapes. And for some reason, when I was analyzing it, I thought that that's what happens when you smoke weed with somebody. You join together and you merge together, because the dream was telling me about, I was basically buying weed from my very first girlfriend, and it was interesting. Why did I have that dream? I don't know, but it was for some reason I think that's why a joint is called a joint, because you join together. You join forces together when you smoke the same joint with somebody. So I don't know if it's in a positive way or in a negative way, but that's how I interpreted that dream. But in terms of energy, in terms of what I'm reading from today's energy, if I could call it reading, I think there's a big shift happening. I feel like we are going over a hurdle, and I think that you can feel it too. There's these energies that we're afraid of, these events, maybe people, maybe jobs that we are facing, whatever you're facing right now, whatever is the big challenge, you know, basically what one of the viewers commented was the obstacle becomes the path, something along the lines of that. Like whatever you're most afraid of becomes the path that you start walking on. And I felt that with some challenges I had last couple of days where I had to start a new job and I was afraid of doing some tasks. I was afraid whether I will manage them, and I had some stress, but in the end I managed it, you know, and I feel a lot better now since I went through those challenges. If I didn't, you know, now I kind of, if I didn't, I would feel like I haven't moved forward. That's how I think. And now I'm like moving forward, and the thing that I'm doing is becoming like the path, you know. So things that you're afraid of, I think you're overcoming those things now. I think psychological problems, maybe health problems, maybe jobs, maybe you have like a big project in front of you. Maybe it's a painting, or maybe it's I don't know, just another day ahead of you, because some days might be difficult to even get out of bed, you know, and then another day might be a little bit better than the one before, and that's I think a big push forward, you know, when you can look at things, especially looking from like, let's say, depression perspective. You know, depression is when you can't even get out of bed, you know, and feel like a loser, you know. You feel like can't even do this. Like, come on, like some people like achieve grandiose things in their life and I can't even get out of bed. So I think it's a lot about not comparing yourself to other people, because you're never going to live anybody else's life. You're never going to be in somebody else's shoes. You're always going to be in these shoes. And you got to stop doing that. You got to stop comparing yourself. You got to start to idealize yourself. That's what I'm hearing right now. Idealize yourself. Like, with all your flaws, with all your mistakes, with all of your, I don't know, duties that you don't do, or all of your duties that you do. That, you know, daily chores and, I don't know, things that you choose to do yourself. Like, I wrote like a page today of, I don't know, like, called poetry, called spoken word, rap. I don't know, but I wrote a page because I felt like writing, you know, and maybe it's gonna turn into a song, or maybe it's gonna turn into nothing, but I did it, you know. So I chose to do it, and I feel like I chose this path, you know. I chose to go to a job that I'm going now, and choosing it and sort of like having to do it, it's two different ways of looking at it. And I think when you choose something, like I choose to go work in a supermarket, it's way more freeing than I have to go to work in a supermarket. I don't want to, you know. But I don't know, I look at people at my workplace, and they're simple people, you know. Like, I mean, they're complicated, don't get me wrong, but they're simple in ways of like, they're not like up in their asses, you know, with how cool they are or anything like that. They're just simple people, you know, and I appreciate that, you know. Like, I'm starting to think that my shadow and my sides of, you know, big-headedness are just mine, you know. Like, maybe this is why I'm suffering a lot of the times, because my big ass head, you know, is getting in the way of the sun, you know, when I'm like when I'm making these videos. sometimes my head is blocking the sun. So it's a good metaphor, you know. Sometimes our own big heads are blocking the sun from shining, you know. So don't block the view for yourself. But what am I saying? You know, like I'm saying don't block the view. We don't have ideas, you know, how Jung said it. Ideas have people. People don't have ideas. Ideas have people. And when we get this idea or another idea that where, I don't know, that somebody's gonna laugh at us, or somebody's gonna, you know, point fingers at us. It's like maybe we're doing that thing to others, or maybe somebody has done that in the past to us, or maybe we've done it in the past for somebody else, and we're afraid that somebody's gonna do that for us, and we're gonna, you know, suffer the consequences of what we've done in the past. Like, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, am I that evil? Of course I'm evil. I'm good and I'm evil, you know, and I have to know that, because it comes out in conversations with certain people. Like, you're talking about certain things, and, you know, certain ideas come to mind, and if you really can have a honest, open conversation with somebody, you know, and they tell you some things and you tell them some things, and sometimes you think back at what you said and it's like, that was horrible, you know. Or like if you're having small talk or something, you know, I hear people at work just having small talk, and they could just tell that person, like not small talk, but, you know, talking behind somebody's back, like they could just tell that person what the person is doing wrong, but they don't do it. I don't know why. And maybe it's, I don't know. I think that's their shadow. That's their shadow creeping in. That's their shadow. For some reason, the word mutilating is coming to my head. Mutilating the image of somebody. But I don't know. That's just my thoughts about what's happening in the world right now. Maybe in my world, maybe in the big world. And with all the wars happening, you know, it's like you see a lot of contradictions with that. Don't want to get into politics, but I was having a conversation yesterday. Well, I was mainly listening to this one person, and they were saying, you know, just don't tell anybody, but they were saying things like, to do with war, basically. How, you know, one side is usually like the bad side, and the other side is the good side. But there's good and bad people in both sides, basically. And somebody's profiting from the war, you know. Somebody's profiting. And I always felt like to be on one side or the other is just as bad as, in general, paying attention to these images on TV and stuff, you know. I don't know, maybe I'm saying I'm not being clear, but I don't support war. But it's almost like if I had war in my country, like, I don't think anybody from the outside is going to help. Like, I wouldn't expect that. Like, to be honest, I wouldn't expect anybody to help, because everybody would be after their own asses, you know. That's what I think would be happening. You know, they would try and flee, or I don't know, go somewhere. I don't even know where, you know. But I don't know why this conversation went this way, but I guess there's a war happening inside us, and instead of directing the images towards ourselves and inside of ourselves and creating the shadows and the images on the inside, we're projecting it on the outside, and we're finding enemies, and we're finding, people to blame, and it's all just it's all just an image, like I'm thinking about, painting. Like you can make a painting, and you can show the painting to somebody, and you can be like, this is my inner shadow, this is my inner darkness, and somebody can look at it and be like, appreciate it. And that's what people, I think, did in the past. But nowadays you got, you got Instagram, you got all these social media that makes you antisocial, really. And, we're looking at these, and then we're like uploading all of these images and all of these energies into ourselves, and then we're like, fuck, and then we're going crazy because of that. Well, what if we, I don't know, directed that energy that we're looking outside, we directed it inside? What would happen then? We would realize that that same darkness is inside, and we don't have to create it outside, or we can create it as an image, but we have these dark images inside, we have these darknesses and brightnesses, and instead of pointing fingers towards something out, we can point it towards ourselves, So that's my thoughts today. That's my thoughts. That's the energies I'm picking up on. I don't know what I would do if there was war. I probably, I don't know, never went to the army, never went on some special training. I'd probably pack my things and leave, if I'm honest. Like, maybe that's cowardly, but maybe that would be a good enough reason to go somewhere. But if Russia attacks Lithuania, then according to NATO, like that's pretty much Russia against the whole world. So not sure if that's gonna happen, but I don't know why this topic went towards war. I guess that's the war within us. So maybe I'll leave it at that, guys. I just want to come back a little bit to the point that I think that we're going over a threshold, and there's a lot of things that are unsaid, unseen, that are behind the curtains, and I think that those curtains close when we leave this life. I think after this life there's maybe another life, maybe another existence, totally different. Same like being born, same like when you're born, you go into a different existence, like the babies were saying, well, maybe in this other world, we would like use our legs and use our arms that now are just they have no use. Maybe we would have some use for these things. Maybe we would use our mouths and, I don't know, like see things, and and the other baby's saying, come on, man, we're getting all that we need through the tube in our stomachs, through the cord, umbilical cord. We don't need anything else, and the other baby's saying, like, you can hear the mother when you're really quiet, when you're really silent. You can hear her speak, you can hear her, heartbeat. And I thought that was a great metaphor. So I think then there's life after death, and that we do certain things here in this life to kind of jump into the next existence. And if a baby is kicking and he's angry and he's kicking and mother's stomach, you know, she can feel it. And when the baby's born, you know, maybe the baby asks the mom after a while, like, how was it when you were in labor? Was it difficult? You know, and maybe the baby is like very active in the world, and the mom says, you know, yeah, you were like kicking a lot. You know, you were like, seemed like you were angry or something. And maybe that existence pre-birth was already like, you could call it karmic, you know, like maybe the baby in the real life, well, not a baby anymore, but like a human is like angry as well or something, and he needs to cure his karmic existence. I don't know, like that's what's coming to my head right now. So this is my STPD part, I think, kicking in, or just creativity. So, okay guys, thank you for being on this planet. It's trust your heart, trust your soul, because I think that that's what's telling you what to do, you know. Kind of doesn't make sense for me to go and work in a supermarket, but my soul is telling me to do that. My soul is telling me you need to quiet down. You need to hear your inner voice. And that inner voice comes, you know, through music, through poetry, through painting, through art, like any different types of art expression. So listen to that voice, listen to the mother, you know, quiet down and you will hear her. So I think that's it. So I'm gonna go and listen to the mother now, Mother Nature, you know, and be in the peace of this country. That's why I moved back here, probably to experience this soul and to grow this soul channel, probably help you guys grow as well. Hopefully you find something interesting in these minutes, 23 minutes. And I love you guys. Have a great day, morning, evening. Share in the comment section below what your thoughts are, what you're going through now, anything really. And if you like what you're hearing, subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one. Lots of love. Peace.